In your engagement interview, you said,
Orchestrated reality show. Yep.
Before royal headlines and palace doors, Meghan Markle lived a completely different life, one that started in Chicago with Joe Giuliano, the man she first married. His family, however, rejected her, wiped away their marriage, and held a secret that would shape her path forever. After years of silence, Meghan's first husband has finally broken his silence, and what he revealed has left everyone stunned. Today, we uncover Joe Giuliano's explosive revelation and the truth behind Meghan's first marriage, the secret union Meghan never spoke about. Long before the tiaras, tabloids, and titles, there was another chapter in Meghan Markle's life, one few even knew existed. This story didn't begin with royalty or red carpets. It began with a quiet, unassuming man named Joe Giuliano. He wasn't rich, famous, or powerful. He was simply the man who once held Meghan's heart, long before the world did. At the time, their love seemed innocent, just two young lovers caught up in the thrill of possibility and naive dreams of forever. But behind that picture-perfect beginning, something darker was brewing. According to people close to Joe's family, Meghan's charm hid a far more ambitious side, her fascination with image, her fixation on influence, and her quiet determination to climb higher soon began to worry those around her. The Giuliano family, known in Chicago for their traditional values and protective nature, grew uneasy. They started noticing inconsistencies, small details that didn't add up. Meghan's stories began to shift. Timelines didn't match. One acquaintance recalled that Joe's mother grew suspicious after Meghan claimed she finished school in 1994, even though records suggested otherwise. At first, it seemed like a simple mistake, but as contradictions piled up, the family feared it was something far more deliberate. Some claimed Meghan might have been older than she publicly admitted, possibly born in the late 1970s instead of 1981. If true, it meant she wasn't the naive young woman she appeared to be, but someone already skilled at shaping her image to the Giulianos. That shocking realization changed everything. Their marriage, a quiet, almost secret ceremony reportedly held in a Las Vegas chapel, ended before most even knew it had begun. No photos, no announcements, no public records, just papers filed, sealed, and hidden from view. It was as if the entire relationship had vanished into thin air. Afterward, Joe stepped away from the spotlight entirely, leaving behind memories of a love that the world would never know existed. His family refused to speak publicly, choosing silence over speculation. But as Meghan's fame skyrocketed, first on television and then in the royal spotlight, whispers about her past began to creep back into conversation. Those who remembered the young woman who once walked beside Joe Giuliano started asking questions. Why was that chapter erased so completely? What could make someone wipe away an entire marriage? Why did every trace vanish, every detail sealed tight? Was it a youthful mistake, or a calculated decision by a woman already planning a larger-than-life future? Nearly 3 decades later, fragments of that hidden story are finally surfacing. And what they reveal isn't a duchess or a celebrity, but a woman carefully crafting her destiny. Long before anyone noticed, before palace gates and global headlines, there was Meghan Markle, standing in a quiet chapel beside Joe Giuliano, making promises the world was never meant to see. Let's uncover the untold story behind that flawless smile, the story of Meghan and the Giuliano family. There was something about her that drew people in, a magnetic charm that made you hang on every word. But behind that radiant smile, some say they sensed something calculated, something almost rehearsed to perfection. The Giuliano family, a proud Italian-American household from Chicago, had once welcomed Meghan with warmth and excitement. Yet not long after, that warmth turned to suspicion, folded into distance and quiet judgment. They began to wonder if the woman who captured their son's heart was truly who she claimed, or someone performing a role, rehearsed to manipulate and impress, hiding her true intentions. You have to understand them. The Giulianos were not a family chasing fame or fortune. They lived by traditions that rarely bent with time. Sundays meant dinner at Nona's table. Fridays meant prayers before every meal. Problems were handled privately, not posted online or shared for appearances. They believed in loyalty, in silence, and in protecting family honor, not for applause, but for integrity and personal pride. When Joe Giuliano introduced Meghan to them in the mid-2000s, they saw a bright young woman with big dreams. She was full of promise, speaking passionately about auditions in Los Angeles, acting, writing, and being seen by the world. At first, her ambition was refreshing and exciting, something different that sparked admiration. But that admiration didn't last long. Unease began to creep in, slowly, almost unnoticed. It wasn't what she said, it was how she said it. Every sentence sounded too polished. Every smile felt rehearsed. She could lock eyes with someone and, as one family friend later whispered, make you believe anything. That was the moment when doubt started to quietly take root. What began as polite curiosity soon turned into cautious observation. Meghan's world revolved around opportunity, scripts, photo shoots, networking, visibility, and the constant chase for recognition. The Giilliano family's world revolved around family, tradition, and quiet values. To them, marriage was about partnership, loyalty, and shared life, not publicity. They valued staying grounded, while she seemed destined to soar above it all. That small difference, at first barely noticeable, began to pull their two worlds apart. It started quietly: missed Sunday dinners, forgotten birthdays, short visits to Chicago replaced by longer stays in California. Phone calls from Joe's mother went unanswered, often met with polite excuses. Meghan was busy, chasing auditions, busy building a future that didn't quite fit their way of life. The family worried, not because Meghan was ambitious, but because they feared she was chasing a dream that left no room for their son. She didn't want roots, one insider said softly. She wanted wings. Joe's father, known for his strong traditional values, reportedly tried to reason with her. One evening, he told Meghan, "Marriage isn't built on red carpets. It's built on quiet days, shared work, and faith." But Meghan saw the world differently. She had a vision that stretched far beyond Chicago's quiet suburbs. She wanted to be known, to be remembered, and in her mind, maybe Joe didn't fit into that picture forever. As time passed, the warmth drained from the Giuliano home. Conversations turned into silences, visits turned tense. By the time anyone realized how far things had gone, it was already too late. Meghan had become, in their eyes, not a daughter-in-law, but a visitor passing through. There's a certain irony in how it all unfolded. Years later, Meghan Markle's name would echo across the world, not linked to a modest Chicago family, but to one of the most famous institutions in history. The Giuliano whispers began to resurface. Some said they weren't surprised, others claimed they always saw it coming. The story was never about fame, it was about trust. And maybe that's what makes this chapter so compelling. Was Meghan simply misunderstood by a family too traditional to see her potential? Or were the Giulianos among the first to glimpse a side of her the public wouldn't see until much later? Whatever the truth, one thing is clear. Their silence was not born of hatred, but heartbreak. They had opened their home to someone they hoped would cherish their son and their values. But as her ambitions grew and the spotlight followed, they realized Meghan's path and theirs were never meant to walk side by side. Some say the family still refuses to speak of that time. Others believe they made peace long ago. But one thing remains certain. Long before royal titles, global headlines, and televised interviews, the Giuliano family experienced a story of ambition, love, and quiet heartbreak that no one would ever forget. There was a quiet Chicago house where the first questions about Meghan Markle were whispered, not out of jealousy or judgment, but out of disbelief. Sometimes the hardest thing to accept isn't that someone changed. It's realizing they were never quite who you thought they were, but what really happened in Chicago before Meghan became a global name. Let's dive into the hidden stories that quietly shaped her early life, the secret they buried. Meghan and the Giuliano family, who chose silence for years. Whispers floated through Chicago's calm neighborhoods, stories that never made the papers, yet refused to die in private conversations, stories that lingered quietly between the glamour that would later define Meghan Markle. In the calm, protective world of the Giuliano family, there existed a chapter no one was supposed to read, a love that began in warmth but ended in silence. A promise that once seemed eternal was later sealed behind closed doors by the mid-1990s. Meghan had already begun crafting her image, bright, ambitious, and unshakably determined. Joe Giuliano, on the other hand, came from a world of tradition where family meant everything and privacy wasn't just preferred, it was sacred. Their wedding in Las Vegas had been a small, joyful affair, but while it started as a union built on affection, something quietly shifted. Once the celebrations faded, the Giillianos, proud of their roots and deeply protective of their name, began to feel tension rise. Known for keeping family matters within the family, the Giillianos valued discretion above all. Meghan, however, moved to a different rhythm, leaning toward independence, reinvention, and ambition. She was restless, hungry for something beyond the familiar walls of Chicago. When the first rumors surfaced, those whispers sparked a silent storm inside the Giuliano household. What should have been a moment of happiness instead became a defining fork in the road. According to those close to the family, there was no dramatic confrontation, no shouting match, just a quiet, heavy decision made around a dining table that suddenly felt colder. The Giulianos, determined to avoid public attention, reportedly chose to handle the situation in their own way. They would protect the family's privacy at all costs. Meanwhile, Meghan was told she could pursue her dreams, but only if she agreed to leave the past behind. By the summer of 1995, insiders say a baby girl was born. Yet unlike most new lives that spark celebration, this one was wrapped in mystery. Neighbors later recalled seeing a child at Giuliano gatherings, vaguely introduced as a relative's daughter. Never confirmed, never discussed again. No birth announcements, no public records, and no public connection to Meghan's name. It was as if the story had been erased before it even began. Joe stayed close, maintaining quiet contact, but Meghan was already stepping into a new world. Northwestern University, early acting work, auditions, and the first glimpses of the life she would later pursue relentlessly. Her path was unfolding just as she'd always imagined. To her, it may have felt like progress, forward motion, but to the Giulianos, it felt like abandonment. They believed they had offered her everything: family loyalty, unconditional belonging, and in return, she had chosen ambition. One friend of Joe's was once overheard saying, "She didn't just leave him, she left everything that made her one of us." When the marriage ended, it didn't collapse in public. It simply vanished. No tabloids, no messy divorce filings, just an annulment, quietly processed and permanently sealed. Those familiar with the family insisted it came with a single binding condition: silence. Meghan would have her clean slate, and the Giulianos would have their secrecy. Whether money exchanged hands remains unclear. Some say it did, others say it didn't matter. What mattered was erasing an entire story before the world could tell it. Yet even silence can echo behind closed doors. The pain never truly left. The nursery stayed untouched. The memories lingered, and the question why hung in the air. To outsiders, Meghan Markle appeared to be a woman who built herself from nothing, sculpting her image through discipline and grace. But to those who remembered the Giulianos, she was someone who had everything and walked away before the world could even glimpse what she left behind. What really drove Meghan to leave it all behind? Let's dive into the mystery of the Giulianos' sudden disappearance and the hidden echoes of that vanishing act. By the time the Giulianos left Chicago, it wasn't just their house that felt empty. It was as if their entire existence had been carefully erased. No goodbyes, no forwarding address, not even a hint of where they went. The moving truck rolled in before sunrise, and by noon, the home that once buzzed with laughter and weekend barbecues stood hollow and silent. Curtains fluttered in the open air, and the faint smell of lemon polish lingered in the rooms, stripped bare of life. Neighbors stood on the sidewalks that afternoon, whispering guesses no one could prove. Some said Joe Giuliano had gotten into trouble with the wrong people. Others swore his wife Anna had taken the children and vanished overseas. But what made the story linger wasn't their disappearance, it was what they left behind. Months later, a woman named Clara, who had once lived across the street, received a small brown parcel with no return address. It was postmarked from a tiny coastal town in southern Italy. Inside lay a delicate silver bracelet, the kind a mother might give her daughter. It bore one simple engraving: Lucia. The problem was, no one had ever heard of Lucia in the Giuliano family. Not Joe and Anna's neighbors, not their relatives who occasionally visited from New Jersey. The name appeared from nowhere, like a whisper from a secret past. Clara took the bracelet to her parish priest, hoping for answers. But the moment he saw it, his expression changed. He told her to burn it immediately and never speak of it again. That warning only deepened the mystery within Chicago's Italian community. Quiet rumors began to take shape. Some claimed the Giulianos had fled to Calabria under assumed names. Others insisted they'd been spotted in Montreal months later. But beneath the swirl of gossip was one persistent, unsettling theory. The child named Lucia wasn't Joe's. It was Meghan's. At first, the claim sounded absurd, yet the timing raised questions too strange to ignore. Meghan Markle's early years were carefully documented, but there was a peculiar gap in her college timeline, a missing semester that had quietly vanished from the records. Could it be coincidence, or was it deliberately hidden? What really happened during Meghan's missing semester, and how did it connect to the Giuliano family's sudden disappearance? This was a puzzling mystery that refused to fade. The story of the Giuliano family didn't end. It simply dissolved like ink washed from a page. Their Chicago home, once alive with noise and laughter, now stood abandoned. Paint peeled from the windows, and the mailbox still faintly carried their name. Neighbors said they left quietly, taking nothing but a few suitcases. No farewell, no forwarding address, no explanation. To most, it looked like a routine move, but those who knew them better whispered that something about their exit felt rehearsed. Too quiet, too precise, almost as if they didn't want to relocate. They wanted to vanish. For years, silence was the only answer anyone got. The family's phone numbers went dead. Social records stopped cold, and even relatives who once exchanged Christmas cards heard nothing again. Some thought they had fled financial troubles. Others believed they were hiding from something darker, something powerful enough to erase an entire family from existence. It wasn't until much later that faint traces of the Giulianos began surfacing across the Atlantic. A closed bank account in Milan, a property deed signed under an unfamiliar name in Sicily. Locals in a small coastal town recalled a reserved couple who spoke Italian with an American lilt. The woman introduced herself as Anna Lucia, known for her strict manners, but also for an unexpected, quiet kindness. The man was simply Joseph, quiet, polite, always glancing over his shoulder. With him was a little girl who rarely spoke. She never attended the local school and was often seen staring at the sea, as if waiting for something, or someone. No one asked too many questions. In southern Italy, secrets are kept like heirlooms, polished, protected, and never spoken aloud. Yet even among those accustomed to mystery, the Giulianos stood out. They lived modestly, paid in cash, and avoided the camera lens. Once, during a village festival, someone tried to take a group photograph. Joseph stepped aside, his hand on the child's shoulder, politely declining with a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. Years later, journalists digging into Meghan's early past, long before the palace, before the headlines, found gaps that defied logic. Entire months missing from official timelines, sealed documents, and a curious photograph taken near Lake Como in the late 1990s. In it, Meghan appears walking along a narrow path, her face turned toward the water, but behind her, almost out of focus, a man holds a little girl's hand. His face is hidden, but his stance, his build, something about it raised questions no one could answer. Who was that man? And why had the image vanished from public archives? Not long after, it resurfaced online. The more investigators searched, the more the story unraveled into quiet speculation. Some suggested the Giulianos knew something, or someone, they weren't supposed to. Others hinted at hidden family ties, fragments of truth buried beneath layers of reinvention. Whatever the reason, their silence became their shield. Today, that abandoned house in Chicago remains untouched, frozen in time. Neighbors still say that on quiet nights, you can almost hear a door creak open and the echo of footsteps fading down the hall. And somewhere far away, in an Italian village where English words are still whispered with caution, the name Giuliano lingers like a ghost. A reminder that some disappearances aren't about escape, they're about survival. Perhaps the Giulianos didn't vanish to hide from the world. Perhaps they vanished to protect something the world was never meant to find. But what secret could tie an abandoned Chicago house to whispers in a distant Italian village? Let's dive into the mystery that refuses to fade. The forgotten ties of Meghan Markle. Decades have passed, yet the whispers have never truly gone away, floating somewhere between royal grandeur and ordinary life, a story that refuses to rest, buried under silence, protected by those who once vowed loyalty to a name now almost erased. Giuliano. Long before the world knew Meghan Markle as the Duchess of Sussex, another name seemed to follow her shadow, appearing in stray records and sealed files that should never have met public eyes. It wasn't until 2024 that a freelance journalist named Aaron Vale stumbled upon a string of forgotten archives in Rome, and that's when the whispers began to take form again. What began as routine research into missing inheritance documents quickly spiraled into something far stranger. Pages with blurred dates, redacted names, and in a recurring signature, a Giilliano. Aaron's curiosity turned into obsession. He dug through immigration logs, baptism records, and even expired passports, each hinting at a family that had once lived quietly in the Italian countryside. Before disappearing in the late 1990s, locals spoke of a couple, Joseph and Anna Lucia Giuliano, who had left behind a small villa near Palermo and were never seen again. But what startled Aaron most wasn't their disappearance. It was what came after. One spring evening, an anonymous message landed in his inbox. No words, no sender, just a grainy photograph taken on a sunlit street. Somewhere in Italy, a woman in a scarf stood beside a flower stall, half hidden from the camera, and beside her, a young woman smiled shyly. The resemblance was uncanny. The same eyes, the same smile. The image seemed to whisper a question. Was this woman truly a stranger or someone the world already thought it knew? The file's metadata placed the photo in 2015, just 2 years before Meghan's engagement to Prince Harry. Coincidence or connection? Every inquiry Aaron made after that was met with polite deflection or sudden silence. Records that once existed seemed to vanish overnight. Even officials who had once been helpful now claimed ignorance, yet strange details began to surface in Milan. A notary confirmed a sealed legal transfer linked to an untraceable trust. The signature once again bore Giuliano. Around the same time, a British newspaper briefly reported a confidential visit made by a royal representative to Italy, only for the story to be quietly retracted hours later. Then, there was the rumour of a young woman applying for dual citizenship, listing her father's surname as Giuliano and her place of birth as Los Angeles. Was it all coincidence, or the outline of a truth too complex to reveal? An aging priest, once stationed near Naples, offered only a cryptic comment when asked about the Giulianos, leaving Aaron with more questions than answers. "You cannot bury the truth," he whispered. "It grows roots even in stone today." Aaron still searches, convinced the photo was not a hoax, but a key, a silent link between two worlds, one royal and one quietly erased. Perhaps that woman at the flower stall knows more than anyone dares to admit. Perhaps the Giulianos never truly vanished, and somewhere in those blurred lines of history lies a secret waiting to be uncovered. The monarchy may have hoped the world would forget, but secrets have a way of resurfacing. So what do you think really happened between Meghan and Joe Giuliano's family? Why did they turn away from her, and what mysteries were left behind? We want to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and comment below, and make sure to subscribe for more shocking royal revelations you won't hear anywhere else. Your opinion could uncover the next layer of this incredible story.